Hello and welcome to Direct Approach with Wayne Moorehead, an exclusive podcast by Direct Selling News, where host Wayne interviews the channel's leading corporate executives to provide timely insights and relevant takeaways to help grow and evolve your businesses. In today's episode, Wayne is joined by Ray Urdaneta, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of MONAT Global. Direct selling was a part of Ray's upbringing, and after earning a degree in international business, he co-founded Alcora Group in 2001. 13 years later, he co-founded MONAT Global, creating the first direct selling company focused on hair care. Today, MONAT is a 4-time recipient of the DSN Best Places to Work, is recognized as a Customer Centric Gold Level company for achieving and maintaining a 5-to-1 or more Customer-to-Distributor Ratio, with one of the most successful preferred customer programs of the last 5 years in the channel. And in 2021, Happi Media named Alcora one of the top 50 most resilient beauty, home care, and personal care companies in the United States. In this episode of Direct Approach, Ray talks with Wayne about why direct selling was a natural choice for him and explains the stress test he created for determining if products should be taken to market. He also talks about what it takes to build a great brand, the importance of focusing on one thing and doing it well, and shares his personal strategy for expansion. Then he takes a deeper dive into what it takes to become truly customer-centric and how to build a culture of trust. Ray has been the company's guiding force as it has navigated its growth, and in 2021, he earned the Gold Stevie Award for Entrepreneur of the Year. In August 2022, MONAT took home 4 Stevie Awards, including the Gold Stevie for Company of the Year. Before we begin, DSN is honored to be supported by industry suppliers that partner with companies across the channel to help enhance, streamline, and grow their businesses. This episode's sponsors are Nexio and Infotrax. Nexio was purpose-built to solve the payment problems direct sellers face. Their unified platform simplifies the complexity of the payments industry and helps you design forward-thinking strategies. Nexio empowers you to take control of commerce strategy, orchestrate payouts to distributors, optimize your transactions to grow your revenue, and maintain the flexibility to overcome obstacles in the ever-changing world of payments. Learn more at nex.io. That is nex.io. And when rapid growth or international expansion place demands on your business your systems aren't prepared to handle, success itself can be a potential cause of failure. As you grow, your systems requirements change, and nothing is worse than being hard-coded into a corner. The Infotrax platform was built with growth in mind, allowing the freedom to adjust your system at any time to align with your current business needs. Learn more at infotraxsys.com. That is infotraxsys.com. And now, please help me welcome your host, Wayne Moorehead, and today's guest, Ray Urdaneta, Chief Executive Officer and co-founder of MONAT Global.
Hello and welcome to another episode of DSN's Direct Approach podcast. I'm your host, Wayne Moorehead, and I'm here with another incredible direct selling leader that has built one of the largest brands in their category, co-founder and CEO of MONAT, Ray Urdaneta. Ray, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for the invitation.
Ray, I've been a big fan of what you and MONAT have created. I know everyone in the industry has been watching over the last several years, the incredible growth, even hyper growth that you've experienced. And your story, your personal story, is even just as inspiring. From being a second generation direct selling entrepreneur to moving to Miami with only a few $100s in your pocket to where you are now, having built one of the largest brands in your category and one of the largest direct selling companies. Can you tell us a little bit about your story, your path that led you to founding and creating MONAT?
Sure, absolutely. Yeah, when I moved to Miami, the United States. I'm from Venezuela originally. Moved here in the year 2000 with my wife. We've been married now for over 20 years. And moved here just looking for that American dream, right? Trying to adventure into something. I wanted to go to college. I was really young, I was 19. Just like $600 in our pockets, start doing all kinds of jobs, right? My wife worked at McDonald's. I worked at Sears in the hardware department. Even though I'm not a handyman by any means, my wife will tell you that.
Me neither.
Finding a job at Sears, really was bad at it, but they promoted me, studied there for a while, then worked at telemarketing, selling credit cards, then went door to door selling sunglasses and designer perfumes. Then what else did I do? I started picking up people at the airport, did a bed and breakfast in my apartment. So I would driving around to do their shopping for $100 a day. So did all kind of jobs. And then for a couple of years did that. We were alone here. Then my father, who was back in Venezuela still, and had great experience as a direct sales leader with Tupperware. He and my mom did Tupperware for all their life. I saw them doing Tupperware parties. I saw them doing Tupperware rallies. I was doing Tupperware rallies myself when I was 9 years old. I went to many Tupperware incentive trips. So I had always been around the industry. And I think that's why, even though I had not been in the field for a long time, I did some Tupperware parties myself when I was 17, 18, back in Venezuela to make some money. But I just did it for a year. But I think my appreciation for the field comes from being around distributors all my life and seeing how my own mom was doing Tupperware parties 3 times, 4 times a week during the evenings. And I saw how they went from being very, very, very poor. I mean, I'm talking Latin American poor, to with just high school education to being able to go and step up to a middle class back then. So I have great appreciation for the industry, but then they retired from Tupperware. They did it for a long time. Then in '94, they retired, did many other businesses. My dad kind of lost all his money doing restaurants and constructions and things he didn't know how to do. So in the year 2000, when I moved here, I moved by myself. He was completely broke. I was studying, and he called me in 2001 and said, "Why don't we open up our own direct sales company? You don't have the experience. Maybe you can come up with the products and marketing and it's like that. You don't have no money, I have no money. So how are we gonna do this?" Like, you know what? We can find some seed money from relatives. So we did that. We found $80,000 and started our first company. Started researching, learning about the beauty industry. Went to a private label manufacturer here in Miami and created a kind of a bath and body line. Very simple, very plain. We have no technology. It was just the catalog was a PowerPoint presentation. Started shipping products, loaded the first container myself with my hands. Shipped that, started with that idea, and we're able to take that company from being from an $80,000 investment to be a $200 million company within 10 years, basically doing the Venezuelan markets. I mean, we surpassed legacy companies there, like Avon, right? Who even had a manufacturing plant there and did very well. But then in the year 2012, things started getting really bad. In Venezuela, government started turning, I mean, there had always been socialists, but started going like hardcore socialists. The valuation started going to 1,000%. And we had to take the decision to say we have to shut it down because it's too tough. And what's sad? We had thousands of distributors making a livelihood out of this. We did a Zoom call and told them that we have no option because we manufacture everything in the United States. There is no way we can keep shipping merchandise. And you know what? Was a lot of tears, but they understood and it showed the connection that we had with them, and they understood that it wasn't our first option, that we did it because we didn't have anything else to do. But that time we had moved, I mean, we have expanded that brand to other Latin American countries in Mexico, Ecuador, Colombia. We had opened a headquarters here in Miami. My father eventually ended up moving here around the year 2008. And so he had been living here for 4 years. So I wanted to show that the company, but that manufacturing plant that we hired, that private label company, they grew a lot with us. And we ended up acquiring them. We said, okay, you know what? We don't want you to go under. You have amazing formulations. We love your R&D. And I think we can do, you have potential, right? So we ended up acquiring them in about that same time. And then we said, okay, what do we do now? So I'll tell you a story that you like. I've told Stuart Johnson. I started doing research. Like, what do we do? What we love direct sales. That's a channel that we love. But I always said that and thought that there were other ways to do it. Like, even though I love the channel, it was a little bit cheesy for me sometimes, a little bit antiquated in many aspects. So I want to do something different. And somebody invited me to the Success Partners University. It was called Video Plus back then, but 2012, 13. And I went there, and it was an eye-opener for me because even though I had been living here for a long time, I never had actually studied the markets, the mainstream market in the United States as a market, right? For me, it was always the Latin American markets, and Hispanic. I thought that this channel is perfect for countries where there is a lot of needs of jobs, and it's like, maybe the United States is not a great market. And I was blind, right? I went to Success Partners University. I saw all these stories of how the industry back then was booming right after the financial crisis, doing businesses in other ways, focusing on customers, doing a lot of digital transformation. And I came back to the office and I said, we have to do it here. And I think we have a way because we have always had great products. But I didn't want to do it with the same products I had been using because those products I developed in 2001 too. I want to do something new. So that's how we decided to say, okay, you know what? I want to open a new business. I want to go mainstream in the United States. And we are going to do it learning everything we've learned from the mistake we've done, because obviously those 10, 12 years was not a straight line. A lot of things happened. And we are going to focus on making even greater products. So that's how we decided to start MONAT, that back then we call it Project USA. And they come up, the idea of the name. So another long story. So.
Well, that's incredible. It is, as I mentioned, such an inspiring story. The determination and the courage that you and your family showed through all of the hard work, but also the learning, the pivoting of the company, and continuing to push forward, knowing that success doesn't happen overnight. I also thought it was really interesting that you mentioned Direct Selling University, going there. I always find it so fascinating how many entrepreneurs go there early, get inspired, learn from the leaders, the other players there in the direct selling space, and come away really, really inspired and motivated to go work even harder, to start their own company, to really start to create something new from all the great collaboration that happens there.
I couldn't believe how executives were sharing their strategies, their ideas, their insights. Like, I mean, how many industries actually are like that, in which people are so open to share, in which we understand that we're not competing among each other. We just, I mean, if the industry goes up, we all will succeed. So that was fascinating for me too.
Absolutely. Again, where many industries see competition, we see community and collaboration. And you're right, sitting in so many of these meetings where in any other CPG company, in any other channel, people would not be sitting there discussing best practices. But as you mentioned, what's good for one is really good for all of us. And we're all motivated to really elevate the entire channel and community as a whole. And that's something that I've noticed as well and have really loved about direct selling. So you were in many product categories, even in the earlier company, the earlier iteration. How did you go about identifying the hair care opportunity, which is obviously a very competitive space dominated by retail, dominated by salons, but you've gone on to carve out such a dominant place in that category. How did you see the white space?
I started doing some research. It's like, happens to be that there's no company specializing in hair care. Some companies have healthcare as a secondary category, but nobody's focusing on hair. Interesting. But then it could be that it's a bad idea, that why isn't in such a huge industry, nobody's focusing on hair? And when I started asking around with consultants, they could tell me it's because people is not willing to pay premium prices for shampoo. But at the same time, I went myself. I like to immerse myself in anything I do. So I started going to stores, drugstores, CVS, Walgreens, Sephora. All this. And look, there's not only like 2 brands doing now premium hair care. There are a bunch of brands selling premium products for $30, $40, $45. So I think the mindset is shifting in the consumer, in which they're willing to pay premium prices for hair. So that was like we decided to do it. And one thing I learned is that you need to be focused on something, right? When you start, especially, focus on something. Don't want to be the best at everything because there is no way. So we said, okay, let's focus on hair. Let's do just a small assortment of SKUs. We started with 11 products, 3 systems, something easy that people could sell, that distributors could understand, and everything could be focused on one hero product, which is our Unique. It's our oil. And then the other thing we did is vegan, natural based. And then when we said, okay, natural based, we said, okay, want to be natural based. But what you see is that most natural based products don't work. So the challenge that we had, and it took us a long time, is how we could come up with products that are natural based for the hair that can actually bring you results, right? People could see the before and after right away, and that could actually back it up with clinical data. So we use actual real ingredients, and that's a story of how we decided to do hair care.
I think it's powerful that you really dug in and did the work, that you looked into the category, the consumer, the competition, to really uncover the white space. And you didn't just select the first product category option or product that fell into your lap. I've heard you talk in other settings about the importance of having a product that'll work in the mainstream, that would work outside, and regardless of any comp plan, that it could stand on its own legs. Can you talk a little bit about the importance of that to you?
Absolutely. I think the industry have evolved, and we're such in a great moment for the industry because we have matured, right? Even when I did my previous company, I used to create this magazine, and the magazine was a monthly magazine, right? And it wasn't a digital business; it was just like a catalog. And in the magazine, we used to focus all the first section in the opportunity. Right? We do a lot of promotions and prices and all that. It was all the opportunity. And people would ask me, it's like, why? Like consultants, marketing consultants would ask me, why do you put the opportunity first? Because we're so focused on the opportunity. And even though we're good products, they were secondary. And what I've seen is that the companies that right now are being sustainable, and the ones that I think I'm convinced that are going to be sustainable in the next 10 years, are those that actually have real customers. So how do you, because distributors will buy out of hype, right? Always. They will love the company, they are really engaged, and they will buy out of hype. So, and that's the way network marketing happened for 30, 40 years, right? But things have changed now. So now we're focusing, now everybody's talking about being customer centric. We started talking about being customer centric since 2014. We created this model in which we say our method of operation or duplication method is you have to create blocks, right? And we say, okay, initially it was 3 to 1. So you have to have 3 customers for each market partner, how we call distributors. Then we raise the bar to 4 to 1. Now you have to have 4 to 1, and then we give you a special bonus, and that's the method of operation. And our goal is to go higher than that, right? Our average customers spend a lot of money per order. So 4 to 1 is good, but we know we can go to 6 to 1, eventually 10 to 1. But how do you do that? You really have to have a product that people will reorder, that customer love. So for me, in my mind, stress test is would customers buy these products if they were selling direct to consumer without distributor involved? Would they buy these products if they were in a shelf? Now, I believe in the channel 100%. It's not my idea to do that. I would never ever take away the distributor. I know there are companies that even think about that. I don't. We don't here in this company. But it's a stress test in my mind. Would people buy this if it wasn't because of the influence of the distributor? And we've done consumer journey maps with third-party companies. And I'm glad to see that it's only a small amount of customers who buys the product because of the relationship or because of they feel a commitment or they feel they have to help a friend. Just a small amount. Over 80% of the customers who buys our product, according to the journey maps that we've done, customer journey maps that we've done, they buy the product because they love the brand or they love what the products do for them.
A lot of companies talk about being customer centric or customer focused or customer obsessed. But when it really comes down to it, they're really not doing anything differently. They might have great products, but it's still, as you mentioned, leading with the opportunity. It's all over the website. It's all over every video. And the product and the customer kind of fades into the background a little bit. And to your point, we don't want to take away from the distributor, from our brand partners. They are the engine, they are the lifeblood. But what are some of the other things that you've done as a company that you've seen really successful with customer acquisition, with customer retention, where you've kind of just balanced that focus? How have you done it at MONAT?
Right. I think, well, number one is branding, right? Well, you're a marketeer, so you know that branding is big. So yes, you want great products that work, but you want a brand that makes customers feel good about themselves, right? So one of the things that we do big is brands, right? To do a brand that feels fresh, that is targeted to millennials, that once again compete with these social selling brands. We do a lot of social media, right? Not only us, but our community does, and that have allowed us to bring a demographic that's very young, right? Our demographic goes something around 23 and 35. And it's because of the branding. When we ask, it's because the brand make them feel good. It's an attractive brand that you're proud to represent. Because that's the other thing. You don't want a brand in which people feel ashamed, right? So if you have a brand, like we have a lot of gear, right? So I love to see customers wearing our gear. They have nothing to do with opportunity. They still think that the MONAT is great. Now, how do you create great branding? It's great visuals, but also great culture, right? So you want a brand that's cool, that's attractive. Millennials care about impacting the world. So even though they might not be interested in the opportunity itself, they're interested in what the community is doing for the world. So yeah, you might not be interested in the opportunity, but do you know how many lives you impact by buying directly from a stay-at-home mom out of Oklahoma? Do you know that we invest $2-3 million a year in the communities through our gratitude efforts? Do you know that we are a fun environment, that we take care of our employees, that we're getting awards because of the way we treat our employees? So right now, you see outside the industry, customers care about that. So these are things that we can leverage. And I was telling the team, we don't have to be hard pitching the opportunity all the time, because that you might have some pushback from people. You always started talking about the opportunity, but everybody want to know about, say we do a convention and the convention is cool and people is dancing. If you do it in a cool way, customers are going to be attracted to that. Everybody's talking about the personification of a brand. So how can you humanize the brand? Right? People try that, humanizing the brands through their founders and CEOs. This is direct-to-consumer companies. We have that. We have humans right behind the brands. We have distributors. We have executives. We're all doing all kinds of events all the time. So I think all those aspects of culture, for cool brand, great visuals, dynamic brands, making sure that we show the human aspect of the brand. Any consumer will like that. Of course, everything will fall down to having a great product that people want to buy. So.
Absolutely. I think you just said it. It goes back to having a brand, having products that could live in any channel. They could live in any category. And you've done an incredible job creating that brand. It could live on shelf in salons and retail with any other brand. It's very aspirational.
Another test is I ask around, or we do it through our we also did the market partner journey map, in which we have a company, they go and interview, I know you've known this, interview hundreds of market partners, and we ask them why they joined. Overwhelmingly, they will join because of the product. And many times, I'm sorry, 50%, they even said, I joined, I didn't even know it was a direct sales company.
Well, that is the foundation for a successful, sustainable company, is having products that anybody would want, regardless of comp plan. And you've done such an incredible job there. Another interesting thing that MONAT highlights, as we all know, many of the largest brands in their respective categories, from hair care to nutrition to personal care to weight management and weight loss, many of the largest brands in the world are in direct selling. But yet it doesn't seem like we get the recognition and maybe the credit that they deserve, that these brands deserve. Can you talk a little bit about that dynamic and what we can do to kind of, get the word out and show that we are these category leaders in so many ways?
Well, number one, I think social media, right? I mean, if you can do social media strategies, and we can do not only reach your distributors, the community, but you can always be pushing to reach outside that circle. That's going to be number one, right? What better way? So that's another thing that we always mention is, okay, we have great engagement, right? Our social media have amazing engagement. I will always try to see if that engagement is coming from the same community that we have, or if the engagement is coming from new outside the circle. So I think social media is number one. Then PR, right? If you have a great product, do great PR, right? Get a great PR agency that can go to editors and pitch the products, and then you can be featured into magazines. You can be featured in digital versions of magazines, like we get featured in Fortune, Elle, Vogue. So what better way to get brand recognition than that? Because I know what you're saying. It's like, okay, wow, it's $100 million company, and actually the brand recognition is really low. So I think that's a great way to do it.
I love that you talked about embracing PR, because so many of us for so long, I think, shied away from it. Didn't feel like we would get fair representation, like a fair shake in interviews and in articles. But more and more companies are really starting to embrace PR and earned media. Your company, I know, Senegence, and so many others have done that. Do you think that that's a big shift now, that more and more companies should embrace PR and just kind of lean into it? Or is it something that still you kind of see people moving in cautiously to?
I don't see every company do it. I see, I guess, the newest company, maybe, it's like new companies, 20-year-old and younger companies doing that. But it has to be with the reputation, right? If you feel you have a good reputation and the editors are not gonna push back because you are part of this network marketing industry, and I think it works. But yeah, it depends on the company and if they feel proud of their products. If you feel proud of your products, why not go ahead and do it, right? Editors will pick it up if they see that it has a great story, if they have a great ingredient story, and that you have clinicals, they will love that.
That's great. I love that it keeps coming back to having great products that can stand alone. Mm-hmm. So speaking of that, you were very focused for many years in a single category. Over time, you've extended into skincare, into wellness. Did you see these strategies as incremental, as targeting new audiences, or did you see this really kind of energizing and bringing momentum to the existing group to increase LTV?
That's a great question, and we're yet to figure it out. But
okay,
but I mean, we done a lot of analysis in that, and we took us 5 years, right? So for 5 years, we focused on her, and then with the skincare, right? So we said, okay, what's the natural evolution? Why don't we use our mantra of having natural-based products that actually work and use it for skincare, right? So one thing that we did is that we went all in skincare. It's not like I'm going to do a couple of products, throw up and see what happens. No. For a couple of years, our team, my wife, who's a product junkie, with R&D and our product team, they went and said, okay, let's do an amazing skincare line. What's that new out there? What are the new technologies? How can we make sure they work? And we did that. We went serious on it. So that allowed us to just re-energize. I was nervous about it because I thought, is this going to be confusing for our customers and field? But no, because I think we did it right. It's an amazing branding. We did an amazing launch. We did it like if we're launching a new company, like we're serious on it. It allows us now to say that we have about 20-25% of revenue coming from skincare. And saying that with her, most of the revenue is coming from customers. So we were able to create, we did a lot of PR. It was the first time that we pushed hard on with the PR agency, and we did a lot of PR in recognition from the media. And I think that helped a lot on getting more customers. Now, regarding the LTV, it increased about 10-15% when we did skin. I think it was going to be more, to be honest. It's like people say, okay, I either buy hair or skin. Some people mix. I know distributors for sure buy both. Consumers are like, oh, I either buy hair or skin. So we're trying to use strategies to get them more into, okay, if you have a flagship, and we have hundreds of thousands of flagships or outer chips, why don't you mix them both? Then a year after that, we did wellness. Wellness is doing great. We did it. We launched initially 5 products only, and it's about 5-6% of our revenue, right? Mostly distributors. We have a big part of customers, but here's 50-50. 50% distributors, 50% customers. I think we can do better because they love. I mean, item by item, they're super successful. But as a category, we know we have a path to get a bigger share of the pie within the company. But it's a good question. We always ask around that. But I do think that it brings you incremental, because there is a point, if you are into only one category, there's a point in which you just cannibalize, right? One thing with the next. And that's what we also noticed at some point was like, okay, what else can you do? All you're going to do is people are going to start, you're going to dilute, right? I remember we used to have a couple of hair masks, right? Some great 8 products. Start expanding the hair masks line. And a couple of years later, we noticed like, oh, we're selling about 10% more, just divided among 5. Yeah, but you get very customer satisfaction. You can personalize more into customers and their needs. But at some point, you're going to start cannibalizing. So you do need to expand to re-energize and to have that additional, to increase that basket, right, of orders.
It's interesting. I agree. Sometimes it's just wherever you shine the spotlight, the revenue is going to shift to that category or that product line. But it seems like for you that it really kind of had both effects, where it helped to bring incremental revenue totally across the company, but also really helped to re-energize the field, gave them a new story, and created new entry points for people to come in and ultimately probably shift into hair care and through the rest of the portfolio. I think that's been really fascinating to watch.
I think the key in that's also we've always, even today when we're talking about the future in the next 3 years, if you're serious about being a consumer brand, you have to have a logic of what you're doing. So there have to be a connection among the brand, among the categories, right? So with its hair, with our Rejuvenate main products, and then it was a perfect segue to the skin with Rejuvenate 2. And then we went to wellness. What is wellness, right? Beauty from the inside out. So just have a logic. I don't love companies that go from skincare to insurance. I don't think customers are going to really look at you as a serious brand if you do those kinds of movements.
Yeah, I'm really passionate about that as well. Most product launches fail in the first year. About 90% of product launches fail, regardless of channel, regardless of product category. And most of the time, it comes down to relevancy. And I think you're right. Too often, we extend brands into categories or into products that really the brand has no business going into. And the customer knows it. They understand the authenticity. And I think you've done it really well from a brand positioning standpoint. This whole idea around beautiful lives that you've created has really served as a product platform and really helped inform everything that you've done. And so I love the authentic way that you've really extended these brands. I'm curious, as you've rolled them out to the field, any new thing you introduce into the field, as you always mention, brings complexity. And I love that you said this complexity brings confusion, and confusion is the enemy of growth. That's something that I heard you say at a DSU, and that I've continued to reflect on. So as you've rolled out these new product lines and product categories, especially probably the first one, especially moving into skincare, how did you do it in a way that kept things simple, that really kept the whole train moving, and didn't introduce or introduced as little complexity into the duplication model as possible? What worked and what didn't?
Yeah, it's always a challenge, right? When you grow, and I love to learn from companies that are older than us. So when I get the chance to talk to someone that's been in a company that's have 30 years of existence, they've all fall into the same kind of trap, right? So, and we have to. I'm not going to say we have not, but we've been careful of not going into that trap of complexity. In fact, one of the things when we're talking about strengths and weaknesses and areas of opportunities, one of the things that we're doing for next year is simplification, right? So that's my word for next year is simplification, because we grow and we throw ideas, and not only products, but in everything we do. I think 3-4 years into the company, we're growing, excited, we went crazy. Like we introduced like 40 SKUs in the same year. And that created confusion. Like, okay, it still was here, right? So what's the product that's right for me? You don't have time to train, people don't have time to digest. So it's that balance of, okay, introduce enough products, like if you want to do skincare, introduce enough products that shows that you're serious about it, that is robust enough, but not that many that's going to confuse people. So what we did with skincare, for example, and what we did with her is that we created systems, right? When we call systems, it's okay, by concern. So initially it was 3 concerns. You either want volume of your hair, you want hydration, or you want repair. That's it. That's the 3 systems that you have. If you want one of those, if you need to address one of those concerns, use one of these systems with 3 products. That's easy to replicate and to sell, right? Same thing we did with skin. So what are the 3 main concerns in terms of skin type, and maybe 2-3 complementary products that you need, serums and stuff like that, that we can easily explain to the market partner and to the consumer. If you do concerns, this is the combo of the system that you need. So systems, it's something that have helped us a lot, even though eventually the field will mix and match and create their own combinations. To kick it off, it's very, very good to have that, and to have one hero product in which you say, regardless of your skin type, of your hair type, you need this product, right? That helps too.
I think that system approach is really important. But also you said something where if you're going to go into a category, go in with enough products that people know that you're serious, that the offering is well-rounded. That's another thing I think that I've learned over time, and that we see often in the category is someone will extend, they'll have one product and make kind of this almost a meager offering going into a new category. But I do think it's also important. You want to test the waters, you want to prove the concept, but you also need to go in really with enough weight to really give meaning, to really give support around those products. I think that's a really important distinction as well. So we've talked about you being super customer centric, very customer focused. It's paid off well. At the same time, you've also been very, very distributor centric, and you have built a really incredible culture of trust with your distributors. And at times you've even talked one-on-one, daily, weekly with your leaders and given them incredible one-on-one attention. Can you talk a little bit about this culture of trust that you've built with the field and some of the things that have been most impactful that you've done?
Absolutely. Honestly, it's a secret of success. Even when I was interviewing someone this week, and the first thing I ask is, are you passionate about people? Are you passionate about the field? Everybody that works in the company have to be passionate about the field, right? It's not always easy. I mean, it's a lot of work. It's a lot of people, right? A lot of personalities. Everybody have their own journey, and you have to love it. You have to love to be engaged with them. You have to love the process that they're having, and you have to enjoy the ups and downs. So that personal connection that Stuart, our president, that myself, even my father, who doesn't run the day-to-day, have with distributors, is very special, and it's very unique. It's very authentic. They've come to my house. I've gone to their houses. They all have my cell phone. I text with them any time of the day, days, weekends, and they know that they can approach me either by text message if they have my phone or in DM because we are super active in Instagram, the whole community. We talk all the time, and they know that, of course, with boundaries, they can always approach me. They will always get an answer from me. So I think the fact that they know that, and regardless of the rank, once again, within boundaries, because when you have hundreds of thousands of distributors, but if there is something, there's an issue, something arises, they know that I will personally look at it, right? And they appreciate it. They appreciate the fact that I listen to them, that many ideas that we've implemented have come because of the distributors. I remember when we launched our car program, right? And now we have over 1,000 Cadillacs on the road with MONAT. The car program happened because our number two income earner back then in 2016, I was talking to her on the phone. It's like, and what do you think? Ray, you know what? We need a car program. It's like, let me think about that. And I always tell her, it was your idea. So they know that we listen. We just introduced a new program in which they can rank advance in the first few ranks without having to create structure, right? Just by volume. And that idea came directly from our senior executive director, which is our top rank. We did meetings with them. We have 65 senior executive directors, and we talked to them in groups. Stuart and I went all in for 3 days back to back, so we could have honest conversations. And they were the one talking to me about this idea. They didn't know how exactly to do it, but I said, okay, I'm listening. I know what you mean. Let us get to it. We do leadership summits every February, and we do roundtables, and we listen to them. We do symposiums, and we listen to them. We have committees of, say, product committee, customer committee, sponsoring committee, training committee. And committees are maybe 5-7 leaders that they talk with our VP of the area, and we're constantly in touch with them. What do you think about this? How do you work? So that having that connection is really special. When you go into conventions, I go into conventions and I sit down with them in the public, right? And I'm sharing with them and talking to them, and we are all one. And I always say one thing that I tell my team, I tell myself is like, when you start a company and you have your first 500 distributors, like you feel so appreciative of them. Why do you have to feel different now? You have 300,000. Have the same appreciation for each distributor. I've talked to in the past with executives in areas in which maybe they don't pay attention to someone. Maybe they feel that we have so many things. Like no. Each distributor matters, right? So make sure that each market partner is being heard. That's how you really create a culture. Everyone talks about culture, right? But that's how you really create an authentic culture.
That's really powerful. I know that that culture of trust, the one-on-one relationships that you've taken the time to build, not just in the early days, but 8 years later here, you're still spending all of this amazing time one-on-one. Not only creates an amazing distributor relationship where they're more apt to stay and to be retained, but as you mentioned, the great insights and ideas that they have that they can bring to the table definitely should not be overlooked. So over these 8 years, you've had periods of incredible growth, you've had periods of hyper growth, but yet one thing that I do know is that you've also maintained really great discipline around the financials. So I'm curious how you've balanced investing for growth and making sure that you're scaling in a way that you can support that growth, but also not really encountering the risk of overinvesting and then being stuck with too many employees or too many resources or too many programs. How have you done that really in such a prudent way?
Yeah, that's been hard, still hard, because we have a very rich complement, because we have amazing products. So obviously you have to, your cost of goods is high because we do a lot of R&D, because our events, if you've seen, are high ends, right? And we invest a lot in trips. So I think it's hard for many direct sales companies, but for us, it's especially hard once again because of the region of the company. So there's so many dollars, right, that you left to operate. But then you also want a great executive team. You know, MONAT, we have an amazing executive team. So you also have to invest in senior people to help you shape, create something that you can scale, right? So it's that balance. The only way to do that, in my opinion, is that look at your numbers very closely. We do it monthly, line by line, right? So a lot of people have told me, well, this is a lot. Like, how do you do this? Every month, line by line. Yeah, every month, we went with our executive committee, with our financial team, with the board, and we literally see line by line. And that allows you to see inefficiencies, right? And it's always asking yourself, what's the ROI on this, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just spending $200,000 in a video production, can you do the same for 50,000? Right now, I mean, with phones and social media, I mean, technology, you don't need that huge production to make something look nice. Well, you need creativity, right? So how can you be creative and don't go crazy on it? So same thing with the day-to-day. We started growing. We went from 20 employees to 100 to almost 1,000. In 2020, when everything exploded, and we do a lot of our own manufacturing and distribution. Now, you know, we're all scaling back a little bit. It's that quick reaction of, okay, scale back. How can you create efficiencies and focus on the things that matter, right? What I think is that a lot of companies focus on things that are important, but are not going to move the needle, right? So it's like, okay, this is cool to have, but it is going to move the needle. Now, if you're in hyper growth and you have all this money, cool, you can have a lot of, everybody can have their own pet projects and try these new things, and we can implement this new cute stuff that we have, but doesn't matter. So when we go now, we go to our IT department, we have a robust IT department. Everybody asks stuff from IT, right? Every department. It's like, okay, show me the list. Literally, it's like, oh, we have 140 projects. Okay, let's see, line by line. Does this matter? What is this for? How is this going to care? So number one, how is this going to move the revenue? How is this going to help the distributor? Is this compliance, right, or legal? Okay, of course, we have to do it. If not, it's not put in the backbone, right? So that way we can navigate stuff that matter. And we never, ever, ever touch the benefits of the field, right? If it's touching the field, it's a true benefit to them. If there's a compliance or a trip or a training platform that they have and use, they don't use, right? We maintain that. And then we need to figure out other places within the company to cut. At the same time, if you have programs that aren't working, I always say, this is from Good to Great from Jim Collins, face the brutal facts. And I think executives don't like to face the brutal facts soon enough. Give it time, right? Give it a quarter, see if it's picking up. If not, just give it up. Yeah. Pull the plug, and we're trying things, right? Executives sometimes feel like, I failed, I don't want to look like my program failed. No, it's fine. If we are very dynamic, we're always trying things, pull the plug. But we've made the mistake too of having programs for a year or two, which, like, guys, we knew since month 2 this wasn't working. We still invested hundreds of thousands of dollars in our valuable time on something that was not working. So I always like face the brutal facts. If it's not working, change directions. And that allows you to not be wasting money. So you can keep investing on the field.
That actually leads right into a couple of my last questions. So with that kind of hands-on, eyes-on approach that you've taken has really helped the company scale to support its growth, over the last 8 years. But also you talk about the importance of keeping that startup mentality. How do you balance building kind of this enormous company with all this complexity that has to be structured right to support the scale, to support the ongoing growth, but yet keep that mentality where great ideas can still bubble up from the field, from employees? Can you talk about maintaining that startup mentality?
I think you have to be in the DNA of the executive team, and the executive team have to be able to be pragmatic in those kind of movements. And once again, I talk to the team. You have an amazing team, and they work so hard. They have to be passionate about what we're doing. So if we have an idea, and we know that this idea might be a game changer, then we might implement it in 3 months. right? If you put it in the, I mean, we have a PMO department, and we have softwares, and we have legal, and we have all this pipeline of procedures. And I tell them, listen, I understand not everything can be urgent, right? Not everything can be implemented in 3 months. To put in the pipeline is going to take a year, and sometimes 6 months to implement. But if we all decide that this is important, let's move fast, right? Let's do the due process. Of course, you have to follow all the check marks. We're a big company now, it's a big ship. But let's do weekly meetings, right? Let's do every 3 days, updating that. How can we be decisive? Be decisive, right? I think that's when they look up to us is, okay, I need decision. Okay, I'll help you take a decision. If you have that same purpose mentality across the organization, once again, everything cascades and we'll be able to make it happen. But I think we have to start with the leadership, right? We have to not be comfortable. When you have a startup, you're not comfortable. You're going to roll up with your sleeves. You're going to sit down. You're going to go into the weeds and you're going to execute. And that's what you do when you start up. When you start growing, it's a lot of planning, a lot of ideas, a lot of analysis. We take decisions based on instincts, right? And so that allows you to move fast. I mean, analysis paralysis, right? And they say, okay, let's do the due diligence, but that doesn't take 3 months. That takes 3 days to go into Mintel, or your monitor, see the reports, see the trends. But if you're really into the business, if you're really into the direct sales side of opportunity business, if you're really into the beauty business and you are immersed every day, you know what's the right decision. So just be decisive and move forward. I think that's having that startup mentality that I always talk about.
I love that you talked about having that kind of underlying structure and strategy there that is the foundation for your go forward, but also having the agility and the flexibility to make changes, to bring in new projects, to reprioritize and react to new opportunities, and that it's not just a process that you kind of build in and an understanding, but it's also having the right people that can react that way too. I think that's really insightful and really powerful. And I think that a lot of us are probably wired that way, some aren't, but I definitely think that that can be taught and learned as you come into a company to shift to a new culture, to a new way of doing things, to a new way of operating. I think that's really important. I'm kind of coming to my last question here. And I know that the channel's changing. We talk a lot about all the changes that are happening, these new dynamics, these new drivers that are out there in the marketplace, where you advocate, obviously, making sure that your brand is relevant and speaking to today's consumer, but you also talk about the importance of sticking to the basics. Can you share a little bit about what you feel we need to change, but also what are the things that shouldn't change and that really should just be foundational to everything we do?
I think the industry have shifts. I mean, many companies are trying now. It's going to be harder for those that don't have the culture. It's very hard to change a culture, right? And I think we're fortunate about that, and that's why we're always going to make sure that we keep it. If we're doing something right, I always say, okay, what are the things that we're doing right? And what are the things that we can improve? And obviously, there are tons of stuff that or areas of opportunities for us. But the things that we do right, and I think we do right branding, we do right culture. We'll keep that. It's hard for companies to change or reshape culture if they don't have the right culture. So I think there are many companies that are doing it right. I mean, some companies are in trouble. So the industry, obviously, there is an issue of credibility that's still out there, right? The credibility of network marketing, the credibility of this amazing channel. So it's like, okay, what do we do in terms of that, right? Obviously, the government still look at us in an unfair way. It's a little bit frustrating for all of us because it's like, okay, I understand why this other industry can do that and we can't, right? It's not very objective. But I think with time, if the industry keep going the route is going by being customer centric, in the next 5 years, everything's going to change. Because the only way to be customer centric, everybody will have to have a real product that people want. And when that shift really happens, it just started happening 5-6 years ago. Then in 5 years, things are going to change. The image of the industry is going to change. Everybody will have a better view of what direct sales is. I think the fact that we're part of the gig economy, that's what millennials want, that's what Gen Z wants, that freedom, that possibility, and they're going to try and they'll see how amazing it is. The things that we shouldn't change, though, as we became more and more customer product centric, and we shouldn't change, is the fact of knowing that everything happens because you have an army of distributors that are doing the one-on-one selling, right? That are micro-influencers. Everybody talk about influencers. You have an army of micro-influencers that have the credibility of their friends and families, that have that authentic view of the product. So we should not change that, right? We have had that debate of, should we save more money on events and not do conventions and not do incentive trips and invest more into digital platforms? I don't believe in it. That's my personal opinion. I think we have to find a way to do both. Keep doing the same thing that the industry have always done in terms of having that emotional connection. Keep doing that. And you do that through trips, and you do that through events, and you do that through conventions, and everything we do good for the field. And find a way, once again, that's our job in corporate. Find a way, find the money, find the resources to invest in digital innovation, in an app, and a better web page, and all the things that today was need, right? Because everybody's working through the phone. Find that way. I think sometimes we're trying to, or some companies are making the mistake of thinking that, oh, it's because of my product that's so great, and the app that I have that's so great that we have all this amazing growth and revenue. No, don't get confused. It's because of the distributors, right? Now distributors need great tools and better tools. So I think that we should not change. And once again, change, I think we're doing it right. Keep pushing customer centric, and that will create a lot of credibility within the company. It will take time. It will take time, but let's keep doing that.
That's really powerful. So it's and not or. So it's continuing to add to the toolbox, continuing to do all the things that have made us different to support the field like we always have, but bringing in some new dynamics, some new tools into the toolbox. I love that, Ray. Ray, thank you so much for your time today. We know how busy you are. Thank you for sharing your insights, your learnings, for your incredible, inspiring story. Congrats on the incredible growth. Congrats on being a category leader continually all these years later. Please give our best to Stuart. Please give our best to your family. And thank you for being here on The Direct Approach.
Absolutely. See you soon.
Thank you for tuning in. We invite you to subscribe so that you are the first to know when new episodes are available. Thank you for listening and supporting DSN and the Direct Approach podcast.